All right, welcome back, guys. This is John Simmons. He is the head strength conditioning coordinator at Marion High School, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about his experience in his life and just kind of his journey this week. So, John, take it away, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Coach, for having me on. When you first asked me, what do you want to talk about? I drawn blanks, man. I was trying to figure it out. And the first thing that came to my mind was just kind of where I've been, how I got to where I'm at, and kind of lessons learned in between. I've been coaching since 2007, so going on my 13th year of coaching. And how it developed into what it is and kind of my philosophies and all those things. So I'd say the first time just kind of really developing that love and passion for strength conditioning. Funny story, I couldn't play 8th grade football because I was too big. We had a weight limit in where I was from. I'm from the Panhandle in Northwest Florida, and our city league had a weight limit. And 6th and 7th grade year, I had to lose 20 pounds and do all this crazy diet and try to, wear sweats under my pads and everything, trying to lose weight to play. 8th grade, they said they were going to bump it up. They didn't. And I was just so mad. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do whatever I can to come back next year in 9th grade and just blow it up. So, my parents had one of those old all-in-one gyms with a barbell and some plates, and it was never touched. So I kind of got in the weight room or garage at the time. And, all we had was metal plates. So I'm putting, inner tubes, and I'm putting sleeping bags on the concrete on the floor. So if I drop the weight, it doesn't bust or whatever. Just kind of messing around with it. And then in high school, played multiple sports, and we had a weightlifting team. So in the spring in Florida, they have pause bench and clean and jerk. So I was exposed to the Olympic lifts really early in my training career. Went on to play college football at Delta State Division II school in Mississippi. And out of high school, I was the best player at our school. One of those situations where we were brand new. I think my senior year, we were 7th year as a high school. And I thought I was up here. I thought I'm not big enough. I'm not tall enough to play at Florida State, Florida, or Miami. But, those other schools, Central Florida or South Florida, that kind of just starting their programs, I can go there. And then I went to a game and realized those guys are still 6'6", 6'5", 330 pounds. It's like, well, okay. So went to a combine at West Alabama. Didn't necessarily like the town, but came back, and my coaches were like, oh, you're interested in Division II. We know some coaches up at Delta State. So I took a trip up there. This was in 2003. They won the national championship in 2000. And fell in love with the campus. They had the major. I wanted to be an athletic trainer. I didn't want to coach. I wanted to be involved in sports, but I didn't want to coach. Thoroughly did not want to coach. Full circle. That's all I want to do now, right? And so I'm up there and, love it. Played football for 5 years, redshirted that first year. And in athletic training, you got to get so many hours volunteered during the week. And I just couldn't I couldn't play football and get those hours. So I switched my major to exercise science and trying to figure out what am I going to do with the exercise science degree. I have no idea. And one of my coaches was like, hey, man, you realize that they pay people to coach in the weight room? And I was like, that's a profession? Like really? And he's like, yeah, I know the coach up at Ole Miss, and I know the coach down at LSU. And, are you interested? And I was like, well, absolutely. I got to do my internship to get my degree. And ended up going to Ole Miss because my wife, now girlfriend at the time, grew up right around there, so I could have a free place to stay. I didn't have to, worry about, paying for anything like that. And interned under, Coach Osmus, and it was strictly for football. That's what I went there to intern. I thought I wanted to be a football strength coach. And, we had 2 workouts. One was at 5:45. One was at, I think, 7 o'clock in the morning. And then essentially, we were done. There might have been another group here or there. And I saw all of these other sports training. Baseball was there. Both basketballs. Volleyball was there. And I was like, you know what? Soccer was there. I'm going to go ahead and jump in on this because I love all types of athletics. I played soccer in high school, played football, I did track and field as a thrower, and just trying to get involved in as much as I could, learn as much as I could. And then, summer's over, go play my last year of football, bounce around, play arena football for a little bit, and, decide finally it's time to get a real job. So me and my wife moved to Memphis. I work at a Velocity Sports Performance, since closed, but it's one of those, speed agility training facilities. And I've always been a lineman. I've always been a big kid. You ask me how to run, I'm like we were talking about earlier, as fast as I can from A to B, right? I didn't know the mechanics. I didn't learn, how to change directions properly. So I was there for about 8 months and learning, every day having to demo. So you got this big 300-pound guy trying to teach you how to A skip, B skip, C skip, working on top speed running mechanics when my top speed was before the 40-yard dash. It was like 30 yards. I was at top speed. And I get a call. From one of the coaches at Ole Miss on the Olympic side. So that summer that I interned was, like I said, I was helping out with everybody, building connections with every coach I could, trying to learn as much as I could and really latching on to that. Well, they call me back and asked me, hey, we got a paid intern position opened up. And, it's not football. It's just, you can help out with football, but it's Olympic sports. We'll give you some of the smaller teams on your own. And, it's a benefits job. We were living in Olive Branch, which is just south of Memphis. And trying to convince my wife that, hey, we can do this. It's not that far. It's 60 miles from every day, not that far of a drive. And so anyways, convinced her to allow me to do that. And I was there for 7 years. And through that time, my first job was I had cheer, dance, men's tennis, women's tennis, and assist with golf. So I had essentially 5 teams under my belt. And then I helped out with baseball. I helped out with volleyball. I helped out with soccer. I helped out with basketball. I helped out with everything. And just, once again, latch on to these coaches, learn as much as I could. I love athletics. I love sports. I love learning the nuances about sports, stuff that, I've been watching basketball my whole life, but until I started working basketball, then you start understanding, okay, this is why they do this. This is when they say this kind of verbiage, and I found that relates to the kids, and the kids buy into that so much better when, me, 6 foot, 300-pound guy from Florida, but I can talk basketball. I can talk soccer. I can talk tennis. I've diversified my just background and my sport knowledge that kids kind of, respect the fact that you're able to talk to them on that level and you understand what they're trying to do. And when they know that what you're saying and how it's going to help them, obviously the buy-in factor helps out tremendously in that situation. And so for a year and a half, I'm working as that paid intern, helping out with everything. And one of my mentors, who he and I developed a relationship over weightlifting. We competed together. We drove down to Shreveport to Kyle Pierce's gym. Kendrick Ferris was a 2-time Olympian on the men's side. Their gym down there, we competed down there. I've done 2 other competitions in Memphis. And he left to take a military job, so I took his role as the track and field. So I still kept men's tennis, but then I took track and field. Same thing. I had a passion for it. I threw in high school, and track and field is so pure, man. I mean, it's who can run the fastest, who can jump the highest, who can throw the furthest. And the weight room is a direct correlation to those things. So, and while I worked track for 3 years, I can honestly say that I was blessed to work with some of the best in the world. our long jumper, Brittany Reese, she got 8th in Beijing. And from Beijing to Rio, she got silver in Rio in the women's long jump. She won every international competition. She won gold at London. She won every indoor championship. She won every world outdoor championship. I mean, when you talk about the epitome of the best in the world at what they do, and I was just happy to be a part of that. It was nothing I did. It's one of those things where don't screw it up. Our track coach, Coach Walker, a legendary Mississippi track coach, told us that track and field's different. It's different than any team sport. In football or in basketball, you can go out there at 90%, 70%, and still compete and still have an impact. In track and field, you got to be redlining every single time you compete. You got to be at that 95% or above because that margin for error is so small, and that really kind of started spinning the wheels in my head about, optimal dose training, getting, the most out of what we need to get, not necessarily what we can get, because I had some athletes that were just unreal. Another athlete who qualified for London in the 200, had another athlete who got bronze in Rio in the pole vault, another athlete who qualified in the hurdles for London and Rio. So I got to work with some amazing track athletes, but, at the end of the day, we are there to help develop them physically and all those things. My 200-meter athlete, my sprinter, Isaiah. So when Isaiah came at the same time I did with track and field, my full-time job, and he had to redshirt. He was coming from JUCO, and talking about connections, right? That first semester, I think he was upset because he had to run unattached. He couldn't compete for the school. So he was, in the weight room doing all this work. And it seemed like in his head that it was for stuff that didn't matter, right? Because he wasn't able to compete, and I'll be honest, me and him, we kind of butted heads a little bit. When I told him to squat a little bit deeper, he'd give me a remark and it was like, come on, man, I'm just trying to help you out. Well, that summer, he decided to stay. He decided to stay in Oxford, and he decided to train. And it was one of those things where I don't, it's something he did. It wasn't me. All of a sudden, he's like, you know what? I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to listen. I'm going to do what coach asked me to do. And, I got some videos on my computer from, that summer of when he could barely, do a 196 pound, everything's in kilos down there, 196 pound, 98 pound power clean, to all of a sudden at the end of the summer, he's hitting 264. And, he's a smaller frame guy, probably 5'11", 165, 170 pounds. And, just explosive as all get out. So then me and him really clicked. And he started seeing the benefits of like, man, if I start training, I get faster, right? And, that next year was an amazing year for him. He, like I said, started doing really well, won SEC championships in the 200, qualified for the outdoor nationals, ended up going to, USA's and got third. He even signed his spikes and gave them to me. So I have his spikes that qualified him to the Olympics, which is, once again, that's awesome. And, it was kind of like that when they start realizing how much you care, when they start realizing, that you're not there for you, you're there for them. And I'm trying to find any way possible I can help to make you better in what you do. It changes them, and it changes, how they respond to you. It changes their leadership role. Now people are starting to look at Isaiah and they're going, man, look, he all of a sudden took something serious as the weight room. And, not that it's going to qualify everybody for the Olympics, right? But it completely changed his game, and he's still running. Him and Justin Gatlin were, and part of the 4x1 team this year that was getting ready for Tokyo that, they're going to train next year for that as well. So, he's been able to maintain that ability. So I talk about Isaiah, and I'll get back to him in a little bit. And so working track and field, learning everything I can. in 3 years, we get a new women's basketball coach, and him and the strength coach are just not kind of meshing, because he came into a strength coach. So he and I switch. I take over women's basketball. He takes track and field. And those next 3 years, I wanted to be with track and field. There's so many events, right? And in the track culture, a lot of the coaches like to program for the athletes. It's done at the professional level, and it's been trickling down for a while. So I wanted to be a part of that team where, everything that I do, I'm focused with them. And I got to travel Hawaii, New York, Reno, all over the country, and see some of the best, women's basketball and basketball facilities, and, learn from some amazing coaches. But I wasn't at home. I couldn't afford, to fly my family out to Hawaii. Right before I left, they did a 10-day trip or after I left, they did a 10-day trip to Costa Rica. It's like I couldn't afford, and my wife couldn't take off for us to have vacation and do those things. And my son's birthday is around Thanksgiving, and we did 2 Thanksgiving tournaments. So I missed my son's birthday and Thanksgiving with my family. I missed my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. That, my relationship with my wife, my dad was going through some, he had cancer, and it was all this weight was bearing down on me. And it's like, look, you can chase this dream where you want to coach in the SEC and you want to, coach these high level athletes. But for me, I wasn't spending time with the most important thing, which was my family. And so I had to make a decision. And I, looking back, I don't regret it one bit at all. There's things that you miss about working at that level, but when I look at why I coach, it's not because of the logo on my chest. It's because of the people that I pour into, and the kids and everything them. And then my family seeing that, my son who's 9, seeing that and seeing what it means to be, a man and a leader of men and other women. And my daughter seeing how a man treats other women and girls, and how, that kind of culture and that aspect. So that means so much more. So I left Ole Miss after 7 years to coach high school, but I didn't get a high school job right away. We stayed in that North Mississippi area. I got a job in Tennessee working at D1 Sports Performance, or sports training, which is just like the Velocity job. And I wanted to get kind of plugged in to the local schools, because you have kids from all over, coming in. So meeting other coaches, meeting kids. And one of my former teammates at Delta State played for the head coach at St. George's, a private school there. And they had an opening. He got us connected. Once again, that power connection, right? Every person that you come across, and I should have said this earlier, every person you come across, a meaningful interaction, look them in the eye, smile, hey, how you doing? It doesn't take a whole lot, but that connection can open doors, and like it did in this situation. So I meet with the coach. They need a strength coach, an O-line coach, and a throws coach. I'm like, well, I can do all that. I fit the bill. It worked. I was there for 3 years. I worked with every single sport that we had, whether it was, swimming, it was, football, baseball, basketball. We had water polo. We had a whole bunch of sports, and my background working with all those different sports really helped land me that job, because of being able to work with guys, girls, everything, and coach there. And what's really cool is from that job, I got to send 2 of my former athletes, one baseball player and one volleyball player, to strength coaches who are friends of mine. at the college level. And you know, so it's kind of seeing that circle from them being under my wing to my friends and all that kind of stuff. So that's really cool. Helping them see their dreams and kind of push them and know that they're in good hands. That's important. That was important to me, even though they already made the decision where they're going. You know, it just worked out that way. And you know, so how I got to Marion. Well, it was the end of last year, 2019. A lot of kids weren't able to come in the weight room. We changed our exam schedule. It used to be kind of like a college schedule. You do your exam, you're done for the day. But they kind of changed it. So not a whole lot of kids were able to come in the weight room. And one of the students and I had an interaction. He was being a little disrespectful, and I asked him to leave. He refused to leave. And, you know, a couple, you know, things happened. I tried to escort him out. He flopped to the ground, called his parents. Administration came check out what was going on, said I pushed him to the ground and all these things. And I had, you know, a couple witnesses in the weight room to you know, verify that's not what happened. But, you know, this was probably one of those life-changing moments where, you know, a humbling situation that I felt like, I mean, I'll just be honest. I felt like I was to a point where, you know, I'd done so much good for the school. I did so many things, and you know, I was like, man, you know, I'll be okay. It was a misunderstanding. It was, you know, nothing really happened, and it wasn't. You know, that next day they called me in, you know, and they're like, "Did you physically touch the kid?" I was like, "Yeah." You know, I put my hands on him, escorted him out, and he fell down. I'm like, but I didn't push him. I didn't hit him. I didn't shove him. You know, and my naivete, I thought that it was going to work out, right? Like me and him were going to talk about it. Me and his parents were going to talk about it. And it didn't work out that way. You know, they're like, you can't put your hands on a kid. And it kind of hurt me inside because I was like, yes, I did touch the kid, but I didn't lay my hands on him. You know, first rule, do no harm. And it's not just talking about what we're doing in the weight room, but that's talking emotionally, mentally, you know, physically, like, and it kind of really put me in my place to go, like, you're not above anything. Doesn't matter where you've been. Doesn't matter who you think you are. And, you know, the outcry of all the other kids that I worked with and the parents was tremendous. But at the end of the day, I had to realize that I didn't have a job, and it was because of my actions. And I really had to own that. And that was really, really hard for me to do because, like I said, I thought that I was something that, you know, and I put myself in a place that I had to humble myself and realize that no matter what, it's unacceptable. And you can't do that no matter the situation. And, you know, looking around, trying to find jobs, realizing that that was probably going to keep me from getting jobs, was that situation, and trying to explain that. And, you know, that power of connection and really molding and learning and being genuine with people. A buddy that is a strength coach, Ty Quick, down in Mississippi, he played football at Ole Miss during the time that I was down there. And, you know, he popped something up on Twitter, and I kind of made a remark about, like, you know, I can't remember what it was about, but essentially it was about not having a job. And he, you know, DM'd me right back. He's like, dude, what happened? And I told him, and he's like, man, I'm sorry to hear that. But he's like, hey, you know, let me talk to some people. And I think he saw a tweet from Derek Smith about the Marion job posting. And he's like, hey, I saw this post, you know, talk to Derek and, you know, find out. So I hit him up, applied for the job. A week later, they brought me in. And I thought I was just meeting with the AD, right? And I walk in, I'm meeting with the AD, the superintendent, and the assistant superintendent. So I was kind of thrown off by that, right? I wasn't expecting that. And because I hadn't talked to these guys, I didn't know who they were. That's the big thing about any interview you go on. You want to do your background, right? You want to know who you're talking to, who's in the room, so you can control that presence. I worked the intern program when I was at Ole Miss. So, I'm teaching these people, these kids, and these future coaches, like, here's how you go into the interview. So I felt like I just completely, out the window. I was like, I'm not ready for this at this point. But I start talking. I look over on the wall in our superintendent's office, and I see this picture, and it's of a girl softball player. She's got a mask on, and I'm like leaning up against the fence. I was like, I've seen that picture before. Well, come to find out, his daughter played softball at Ole Miss. And I had coached her, and once again, treat everybody, and treat everybody, coach everybody, all those things, just be a genuine person. And, come to find out, she had remembered me from coaching there, and, interviewed for the process, knocked it out of the park, right? But the situation at my previous school and them trying to vet, that, hey, love what you're saying, but we just got to make sure that everything's okay, right? So our head football coach, Coach Houston, played football at Ole Miss. He literally graduated like 2 days before I got on campus. So one of his mentors and one of his former strength coaches was still there when I volunteered. And I've stayed in close contact with him. He's a great guy. He's the head football strength coach out at Duke. And he called him up. And once again, you don't know who knows who. You don't know, in this profession, coaching, it is so intertwined and everybody's so connected that, I always try to make relationships with everybody I come across, because you just never know what's going to, happen. And, and Coach Durfee told him exactly the person I was and how I do things. And, that helped Coach Houston talk to our administration and get me this job and this position that I'm in. And, I've been blessed to work with some amazing coaches and play with some amazing coaches. So when I was at Delta State and I played there 03, 07, one of my teammates played safety for us. Unbelievable safety, just great football knowledge. His name's Pete Golding. He's the defensive coordinator at Alabama. One of our GAs at the time, Carl Scott, he's the linebackers coach at Alabama. My head football coach, my last year, who was our defense coordinator, Ron Roberts, he just got hired on at Baylor as the defensive coordinator. Who hired him was the Dave Aranda, who was our defensive coordinator my senior year in 2007. My O-line coach, my second O-line coach, is the head coach at Rice. He was the assistant or the associate head coach, Coach Bloomgren. He was the associate head coach at Stanford, and worked with the Jets for a couple of years before that. And a number of guys that were GAs or coaches are on his staff down at Rice. One of my former teammates at when I played arena football, he was one of our quarterbacks. He's the offensive coordinator at Kansas. He wrote the evolution of the RPO book, and Brent Dearman. So once again, you don't know who knows who, and who, these people, these relationships, you don't know where they're going to be and where they're going to take you. So it's so important to, like I said, be a genuine person and just make those connections and make that network, because, had I not had tried to branch out to other sports when I was at Ole Miss, probably wouldn't have got called back, probably wouldn't have made that relationship with, Coach Durfee out at Duke, and, that wouldn't be here at Marion. Being here has been an absolute blessing. I'm so grateful for it, because where I was at before, the private school, was $23,000 a year to go to school there. I couldn't afford for my kids to go to school there. And, here, my kids will now go to our magnet school, which is literally right across the street from my office. And I'll be able to go over and have lunch. I'm 5 minutes from work. I've never lived 40 minutes close to work, 30, I'm like 3 miles. So being able to actually be home and I chose to be at the high school level. And, there's a moniker when I was at Delta State, the NCAA Division II was putting like, I chose Division II. That was their slogan. I was like, I chose Division II because I wasn't tall enough or good enough to play at Division I. That's why I chose Division II, because that was the only way I was going to play college football. And, but I chose to be a high school strength coach. Our organization, the NHSSCA, is unbelievable. They do it unlike any other organization out there, because they are truly about equipping coaches to be the best coaches they can. It's not, oh, well, we're going to do this continuing education. There's no college organization or professional organization that's having these, weekly Zoom meetings right now. Hey, what are you guys doing over there? Hey, what are we doing here? What are the COVID guidelines? Like that truly means a whole lot, and Coach Pearson reaching out to me and, asking me to do this and kind of talk about my story and where I'm at and how I got there. And, it doesn't happen at that level. So I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity. But also, I'm just so excited about, I don't know a thing about Arkansas. I'll be honest. Like, everybody's on these meetings talking about this town and this city and that. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It took me 3 years to figure out Tennessee when I was coaching over there, so kind of learning that whole new background. So this organization and this group in particular has been instrumental, helping me kind of learn the landscape of the state and, link up with coaches. So I love about high school strength coaches. We're not, when you go to a conference and you go through that vendor room, and I got Ole Miss on my chest, vendors will talk to you. If you have that high school on your chest, vendors, sometimes they overlook you. I had a good friend of mine. He's the strength coach at Liberty now. He, one day, he was our football strength coach, one of our football strength coaches. He wore jeans, a T-shirt, and flipped his name badge around and walked through the vendor list and just noticed like how people were treating him. And then, he kind of flipped his badge over and they saw the name on his badge. All of a sudden they perk up to him. And I was kind of like, you know what? Like, that sucks. Shouldn't be that way, because, with my administration, I've got, I've been blessed with a truly amazing weight room and facility that rivals so many, not just across the state, but across the country, at what we're able to do and what I was able to get and how we were able to do it. So, it just goes to show that, this organization and high school strength coaches, I wanted to develop kids. I wanted to mentor guys and girls and help them if they want to go to college and play athletics. I know what it takes to be there. I played at lower levels. I've coached at Memphis. I coached at Ole Miss, coached Olympians. I've coached the highest level, NFL, Major League, NBA. I've coached athletes in all major professional organizations. I can help you. I know what the work ethic and I know what it kind of takes to get there. But I talked about Isaiah earlier, qualifying for the Olympics. I want to talk about my right tackle last year. We're a smaller private school. It was his first year playing or starting football. He had played football before. Barrett, he was on the autism spectrum. Okay. So it was one of those things where literally one day he wouldn't come out to practice because his shoes were too tight and it was hurting his feet. He's like, Coach, I'm not coming out. I'm not. So he was in his locker reading a book during practice the whole time until we get done. And he gets his stuff and he leaves. But truly amazing kid, works hard. And I wasn't going to let him quit. There were so many days where he wanted to, quit at practice. And I'm like, Barrett, it's always funny that, your anxiety kicks in and you start having a panic attack during practice, but during games, that never happens. It never happens, Barrett. So, truly trying to help him grow. He stayed with his mom and, she worked at the University of Memphis and that was his goal to, go there and, as I felt, we always feel like it's our duty to make young, boys into men, ladies into women. So I felt, okay, I want to help equip him with what he needs to, eventually move out on his own. I know he doesn't want to live with moms for the rest of his life. Maybe he did, but, trying to help him in that aspect. So after everything went down, he sent me a text and he said, Coach, I really want to thank you. And I was like, okay, for what? And he's like, what's the word? He sent his transcripts and stuff to University of Tennessee out in Knoxville. He's like, I applied. There you go. That's the word. I applied to UT Knox and I got accepted. Coach, I'm going to go to UT Knox next year. He's like, Coach, if it hadn't been for you pushing me and if it hadn't been for you trying to get the most out of me, I would have never left home. I would have never, he's like, he's like, I've developed so much confidence with the team this year, and all those things. And that means just as much, if not more to me than Isaiah qualifying, running next to Usain Bolt in the semifinals. Because, we're here, coaches are here, we're led to make impact on lives. And the fact that, Barrett called me up, texted me up and said that, Coach, you did that. You did that for me. That means everything. That means all those hours that we put in all the time to those kids. And, that's why we do what we do, right? Everybody, anybody can help make kids a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, but we're called as coaches to, a higher power to be mentors, to be father figures, to be that guiding, presence when kids don't want to work hard. When we don't want to work hard, we got to still step it up. We got to go and we got to find ways to develop and once again, build those connections. It's not about the keynote speaker in NatCon last week, was talking about, the old way you tell a kid what to do and he's just supposed to do it. Now they want to know why. And you have to build that relationship. And I felt like over the years, I've always done a pretty good job of building those relationships. And it's always opened up another door for me down the road, wherever it be. And, don't take advantage, no one person is more important than the other. Just do the right thing and be a good person, work your butt off, work tirelessly, continue to try to learn. We're never as smart as we think we are. We're never as good as we think we are. And that should fire you up even more to want to learn and want to grow and want to become better. Because, I know coaches who've been doing this for 40, 50 years and they're still learning from other people. And I'm like, man, I've only been doing this for 13. Who am I? Doesn't matter if I've worked at, the SEC. It doesn't matter if I've worked with some of the best. Like, I need to find and better myself for the kids I'm working with. And, so that's pretty much, in full circle. I didn't want to be a coach. Now that's all I want to do, right? I want to be an athletic trainer. But there's nothing I'd rather do. So, and I just grateful to be where I'm at and being able to do what I'm doing. So,
man, that's awesome. And that's such a great story. So much of what we do is about overcoming adversity and, creating situations for our athletes to where they have to, they build confidence by overcoming adversity. Our whole job is to make situations that are difficult for them to see what they can overcome. And so that's such a great message that you're able to send, being able to live that out. through your life. That's awesome, man. Man, I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're the first person that I've done this with, where I'm going to ask these questions.
Great.
So this is something I'm going to try to start doing each time I have somebody on here.
Okay, cool.
What's your favorite quote?
Favorite quote. Okay, so I'm going to pull out scripture here, Proverbs 27:17, because I feel it's more than just what it says, right? So iron sharpens iron, so as one person sharpens another. I feel it's a call, once again, to coaching. But, you know, we're not here just to make kids stronger. We're here to help develop them. I'm not here to help, I'm here to help develop my son, my daughter, my wife, my family. It's not just about, it's all aspects of life. It's your relationship with, Jesus. It's your relationship with your family. It's your relationship with your kids. Everybody is there to help develop and strengthen each other. And that's why I talk about, once again, connection, building those relationships. We're supposed to bring out the best in each other. So being able to do that is extremely important to me. So that's one that's been with me for a while.
Awesome. Who is a coach that's impacted you?
Man, so many coaches. I always, every time this gets brought up, I always refer back to my my high school offensive line coach, our head coach, Coach Williams, because you have those coaches that always say those things that you're kind of like, wait, what? That was like the most ridiculous thing, but you say it later on because you thought it was so funny. Like he always used to say, he would get his words mixed up, or he'd say go left when he meant go right. And we're like, Coach, it's not what you told us to do. He said, God dang it, son, do as I think, not as I say. And it was kind of like, and I'll still catch myself doing that. But he was the coach that when I thought I was, riding high, he kind of leveled me. He said, son, you're nowhere even close to what you think you are, and kind of humbled me. And when I thought I was working hard, son, you ain't working hard enough. Like, if you really want to do this, this is not, you got to work harder, and brought out more of me than what I thought was possible. And, he's honestly one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to be a high school coach, is because what he did for me, I wanted to do for other, guys and girls.
That's awesome. What's been your favorite moment as a coach? You've talked about a few, but what's another moment that's stood out?
Let's see, as a coach. Okay. It's kind of like not necessarily a moment, but my favorite kind of scenario is when kids that I've coached, hey, coach, I'm in town. I'm on town. Hey, can I come get a lift in the weight room? I'm actually, later on this morning, one of the kids I used to coach, he would play offensive line at Ole Miss. He and I are going to, go up to the weight room and work out. That when you realize that the impact that you make on these kids is not just the time that they're with you, it's that lifelong journey, right? That they become, and you become a part of their lives, not just, oh, he was that strength coach that I had, but, hey, coach, I'm trying to lose a couple pounds. What do I need to do? Hey, coach, I thought about doing this. Is that okay? Hey, coach, I'm in town. Can I stop by and say, hey, to the point where, now I'm old enough to where I've had some athletes who, hey, coach, I'm having a kid. Hey, coach, I'm getting married. Hey, that's the moment that makes me proudest, is, being a part of their lives, and I hope more than anything, my kids see that, and realize that, that that's hopefully, my son looks at me and I'm somebody that he wants to be someday, and that's the biggest thing is, like I said, that relationship with my athletes, but that's rubbing off on my kids and really kind of, so yeah, whenever they come back in town, whenever they hit me up, whenever, that's, I guess my favorite moments is when I get those calls or those texts.
Awesome. What is your favorite lift when you go into the weight room? What's the thing that you look forward to the most?
Okay, so that's changed over the years so much. It absolutely is the split jerk. There's nothing more, I think, satisfying to me than having a weight across your chest and within, like the blink of an eye, owning it and it being over your head. A couple of years ago, I was at Summer Strong with Sorenex out in South Carolina, and my mentor, Aaron Osmus, he's the head strength coach at USC out in LA right now. He's pen and paper strength out guy, and he was like, "Hey man," the first day we're there, he's like, "Hey man, we're gonna bench press." I'm like, "Me and Tony, you in?" I'm like, "I guess. I mean, do I have a choice?" He actually just benched 500. He's probably 40, 45 or, somewhere in his mid 40s now. And he just bench pressed 500, for the first time, smoked it. And I'm like, man, I'm going to get embarrassed. Like, I can't hang with you guys. And, a couple weeks, months earlier, I hit, lifetime PR and I got crushed that day. I wasn't ready for it. And so I'm kind of like hanging my head. And I'm like, man, I just got embarrassed and disappointed in front of him. And a couple other guys were on a rack not too far and they were doing split jerks. I'm like, okay, I can redeem myself on this lift.
I can go over there. Yeah.
and I just walked in there. The bar was already at 315. And I'm like, you know what, whatever. I'll just go in there, hit a double. And maybe it was 275, but either way, I didn't have my weightlifting shoes on, and I was like, I was in my tennis shoes, whatever. So I hit it and I was like, I felt pretty good. Bump up to 315, hit it for a double. Feels awesome. Then they throw on, 365. I'm like, okay, guys, we're going up there a little too quick. Hit it. And I was like, actually, that didn't feel too bad. And they're like, all right, 4 plates. I'm like, man, I had just done, I think, 400 for the first time. It took me years to get 400. And you can tell it's my favorite lift, right? I got a big story about it. And anyway, nobody else hits it. I go up there, smoke it. And I was like, just being in that atmosphere with other coaches, kind of cheering you on. Oh, yeah. I was like, I just got embarrassed at the bench press. I got to redeem myself over here and then hit a lifetime PR. So, yeah, split jerks. I just love the coordination, the balance, the timing, the stability. There's so many just benefits to that lift. And that's my favorite. So
that's awesome. And that's a heck of a story too, man. What's your favorite part of Arkansas so far? I know you haven't been here a while, but
I'll tell you, man, the people. Marion's a small town, but so we lived in Olive Branch for about 7 years, and we moved to just a little bit more south out in the country a little bit for 4 years. And it never really felt like home to me. It just, because I was never there. I was always in and out. But, being here, smaller town, close, like I realized that my kids, I might actually have the opportunity to coach my kids. I've never had or never would have had that opportunity probably elsewhere. But, every person that I come across, has nothing but positive things to say about the school and, what we're doing. And man, I'm so thankful for the opportunity that I have here in Marion. And like I said, the people, whether it's the people I work for, I work with, the coaches I work with, the kids. And I really haven't been anywhere. I was talking to another coach the other day. Little Rock and Fayetteville are the only places I've actually spent some time. You know, when I was playing at Delta State, we played against Southern Arc, Henderson State, Ouachita, Harding, UCA, and all these other schools, but I didn't really get to spend time. So I'm looking forward to it because I know, man, especially, you know, once you start heading a little bit more out west and, you know, you get in the Ozarks, man, this state's got a lot to offer. So I'm looking forward to, you know, taking my family to Hot Springs and some other places and kind of really getting to experience the state.
Awesome. What's your favorite place to eat in town?
Man, you don't get to be my size not loving to eat. So there's so many
coaches, man. We can throw it back, man. We can eat some food.
And that's another thing I love about Marion is, you know, being a small town, it's not like I'm having to drive to, I mean, literally from my house downtown Memphis is 10 minutes. It's like quick, right? But you know, we got a Shake Shack here in town. They make, I mean, it's all like, you know, they got burgers, they got, you know, soul food, they got a whole bunch, you know, I mean, they got ice cream. I mean, they got everything. We got a Seafood Shack, which is like, it's like in a fast food type place, but they, you know, boil, you know, they have boiled bags of snow crab and shrimp and all this other kind of stuff. They got a sushi place in town that's phenomenal. Taco truck. They got the taco truck right over there by the train tracks. Phenomenal. $2 tacos. Can't beat it. Dude, I think that's another thing I love about Marion, and it's just small town, but you don't have to, I mean, there's so many places to eat. It's awesome. So I can't pick just one, to be honest.
Awesome. Well, awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that, man. That's such a great story. All the athletes that you've worked with, all the lives that you've impacted. And I'm really excited about you being in the state. I'm super excited about, I feel like schools like Cabot, Marion, you know, Southside Batesville with Derek, Shiloh Christian with Tyler Weddle, like these schools that have full-time strength conditioning coaches are such a big thing here in the state, because that's really where it needs to go to make sure not a single athlete gets put in a bad position, or, you know, and that's the thing is, you know, I like hearing you talk about how your superintendent like gets it. Like, you know, it's not just football. Like football is going to take care of football. Football is going to get taken care of. It always has. But it's those other sports that they don't have somebody to advocate for them, you know, and they need strength conditioning as much as football does, you know. And I loved how you talked about track and field, because I've been around track and field a little bit, and just on the outside, I was just like, they just run. Like they're never in the weight room. Like I don't ever see them like actually lifting. And then they're only there like the 3 weeks before the season, and then they're never in there anymore, you know?
Right.
You know, and so I love the fact that you love those other sports and that you've invested time. And I think that's a great thing to make sure, like, hey, this isn't just a football thing. It's a everybody thing. Everybody needs this. So that's awesome. Well, thanks, John. I'm going to stop the recording, man. But I just want to say thank you for sharing your story and being so open about everything. And I really loved it, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.